Welcome to another interview presented by Alabama Wrestling Forums. I'm Jackson Bass, here with your Cadet Greco 77-kilogram world team member, along with four-time Alabama state champ, Cory Land. How you doing today, Cory?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, man. So let me start off by asking, what got you into wrestling?
So it was about, or first, I always wanted to be a football player, right? Living in Alabama, football is the biggest thing. Me and my brother always talked about playing for Alabama, all that stuff. Well, obviously, I don't have the build to be a football player. I'm like 5'5", 125, 130-ish. So my brother actually were playing basketball, and he didn't make. And so he was like, okay, I'll wrestle. And so he started wrestling, and I just kept watching him, and I was like, yeah, that looks fun. And so me and him started wrestling like on our trampoline and in our living room floor and all that. And eventually I started getting to club wrestling in about fifth grade, I want to say.
So you mentioned your older brother, and obviously Michael had a lot of success in his final years at Moody High School. He won 2 state titles. He's now wrestling at Reinhardt. What did having an older brother in the sport kind of benefit your wrestling when you started out?
I mean, dude, it's insane having someone there who can tell you what you need to do and how it is straight up. Uh, Being there to like just mess around with. I can't tell you how many countless hours me and him have like just wrestling around with each other. Like whether we're at Thanksgiving, like fully clothes and dress clothes, or Greco wrestling in the living room in front of everybody, or if it's just me and him watching world team trials on the computer and in between matches wrestling on the floor and trying to figure out how people are doing stuff. Um, yeah, dude, he's my best friend. He's my favorite training partner. I love that man to death. If I didn't have him, I don't know where I'd be. He's the one who got me into wrestling, and one I look up to him a lot. He's definitely up there.
Well, that's awesome, man. So obviously you mentioned that you started club wrestling. You started with Alabama Wrestling Club when you were in 5th grade, you said. So obviously we talked prior to the interview. You mentioned how Jake's coaching has definitely evolved. What were some of his previous base and coaching when he was originally a coach at AWC?
Um, so there's a bunch of stuff that Jake wanted to like do his own thing basically, and that's what caused the split. So it was a lot of Coach Rod Gaddy's coaching, like philosophies and ideas, and Jake, wanted to do this instead of that. But yeah, he his baseline stuff, it was really good for beginning. He just got out of college, so it was a lot of that. But wrestling evolves, right? Like a I don't know how to explain it. Like a sweep single will only work for however many long. You have to have setups for that, right? And the same setup doesn't work forever. So like wrestling evolves. People are getting better at this defense and this defense. Another like sweep single defense has evolved incredibly in the 2000s with people like Yanni Hollis and all of them learning how to play with this knee whizzer and scrambling and all of that stuff. And Jake's been, evolving with it. He's been learning it, researching it, watching videos, and then we come into the room and we play with this position for a month. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And then he'll teach it, and then he'll go in depth with teaching it. And it just really works out with coaching wise, like the techniques and all that stuff. It's fun. It makes it interesting, so it's not monotonous. It's not the same drill over and over again. You're getting to learn all these positions all different ways.
And that's awesome. So I'm gonna kind of go through your career, and you've I don't know if you would really acclaim it, but you've gone through probably a good amount of obstacles in your route to where you are now. To start out, I mean, as a 7th grader, you were 75 pounds wrestling varsity. What were some of the major challenges in doing so?
I mean, obviously the big one just being undersized incredibly. I haven't hit puberty yet. I was super, I just wasn't as strong as big as people. I felt like my wrestling technique was better than most people's at the time, though, just because I trained so much and all that. But I was still young. I was very emotional at the time. I mean, I'm still emotional, but like back then it was bad. I mean, I was a little kid, you know. I go back and I look at these pictures. There's this picture of me and Michael standing together at this tournament, and Michael's like a junior, or no, Michael's a senior. I'm in seventh grade, and I literally look like I'm 2 years old. I don't know how I did it to this day. But yeah, it was tough, but it's definitely like good. It was very good for me because I went from wrestling these big 106 pounders weighing 70 pounds to going to nationals and wrestling 75 pounders who didn't look any bigger because I've been wrestling these giant people. It's great. Like if you're a seventh or eighth grader and you're scared to wrestle because you're undersized, like there's no point in that. It will only make you better, especially when you get to the off-season tournaments and you're the same size as these people. It's insane. You'll be under them and you'll be like, whoa, this is like easy work, easy money.
Well,
So it was an obstacle, but I really do think if I didn't wrestle that year, I wouldn't be where I am now.
definitely. And I would say the second major obstacle that you guys came across is your eighth grade year when when you know your fellow teammate at Ironclad, Cody Souter, kind of had your number out on the mat, and he beat
Yeah.
you I think 2 or 3 times in season, but you end up winning it at the very end where it mattered in the finals of the state tournament. What did you kind of do to adjust to win that match?
Man, that was a crazy year. I was still pretty kind of undersized. I was weighing like 90 pounds now. So, I mean, it was still tough throughout the year, but I mean, I never scored on him until the state tournament, right? He beat me 7-0 the first time and I think 6-0 the second time. But what really helped me throughout that state tournament run was the confidence I got. I wrestled a really tough wrestler in the semifinals match, Jackson Elder. And when I beat him, like you can go ask Marcus Elkins, he was my coach at the time for Moody. I beat him. I looked at Marcus. I said, I'm winning this. Like, it's over. Like, I just beat him by like 6 or 7 points. I'm winning the tournament. I'm not losing. And, me and Marcus had this super, like, it felt like I was in a movie. Like, I was sitting in the tunnel waiting for him to call my name. And he was hyping me up. And he was like, there's ice in your veins. And he's like slapping my back and stuff. And I'm like an eighth grader still. I'm still a kid. Like, I'm 14, 13 maybe. I don't remember. I think I just turned 14. I'm freaking pumped, dude. I'm like pacing back and forth, slapping my headgear. And I just went out there and wrestled. And I just was the better guy that day.
That's that's pretty insane. I know that when I was an eighth grader, I barely placed third at Metro, so I think you were kind of a step above me then. But obviously, it kind of took off after that. Obviously, you made a big jump then, and then you made an even big jump after that. Because after your eighth grade year, you went to NHSCA Nationals, you won a national title there, and then you went on to having a dominant season. So that would have been your freshman year. You had a dominant season. That was God, that was insane, man. And then you made your biggest jump after your. I guess that would have been your. I'm going to kind of fast forward a little bit. So, what kind of gave you the confidence to make your first world team? Obviously, there's been nobody in Alabama to ever make a world team. We had Sam just a couple years ago win his first Fargo title.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's people chirping that, hey, you're from Alabama. There's no way you're ever making it. How did you kind of use those doubts to kind of boost your confidence?
I really don't remember what it was that like made us go to World Team Trials. We had a really good cadet group at the time with like me and Jaden and Nick Smith and Ryan Summerlin. We had a bunch of good wrestlers at the time. So we were like, you know what, screw it. Let's get this tournament in. It'll be a good freshen upper for Fargo. I can't tell you 100% that I walked in that tournament thinking I was going to win and make the world team. But so what really happened was I was in the Greco bracket, had the first seed second round. And I was like, we're all looking at the brackets before they start. And we were like, dang, we all got like really good kids. But I went out there and beat the kid in the second round, the one seed. And, that gave me the confidence. It kind of happens a lot with me at these tournaments. I'll see a really good kid that I have to wrestle and then I beat him. Right. And like sometimes it's super close and sometimes I beat him handily. And I'm like, okay, I'm not losing this tournament. They're like, I just did that. I just knocked off the 1 seed. I'm not losing this tournament. I can't go out now. So after I beat that kid, I was like, all right, let's go to the next match. So that was definitely a crazy moment winning that. And that's what jumped me on the scene the best, I think. NHSCA's did a little bit because I beat a ranked kid. That was the first time I started getting like national attention. But when I made the finals for freestyle and when I won the Greco team, people were actually like, oh, this kid's legit. Like this Alabama kid doesn't suck. So that was pretty cool.
You had probably one of the most dominant runs I think I've ever seen in a state tournament post your making your cadet world team, especially, you won a match at Worlds against, was it India?
Turkey.
Turkey, sorry. It was against the kid from Turkey. And I know that obviously there's a lot of pressure there. Do you kind of see that as pressure when you're doing that?
So at Worlds, when I'm in that big stage, I don't feel it as much. I almost feel more pressure in Alabama because I know if I do lose, it'll never be not talked about, right? Like think about it. If I went to the state finals this year and got pinned in front of everybody or like ended up losing my state finals match, you would never hear the end of it. All the headlines would be blah 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 beats Cory Land. Like Cory Land loses state finals match. Like so I almost feel more pressure in Alabama or in tournaments that I should win than I do where tournaments where they're like, is he gonna win? But it's definitely there's definitely a little bit of pressure no matter what. Like I always get a little bit nervous for any match. But it's cool. Like when you're representing your country, it's like, I'm just gonna go out there and let it fly. So
what was so hard about making it the second time?
honestly, the first time was harder just because I didn't have the confidence. This time I went in with the confidence. One thing that was a big obstacle is about 2 days before the tournament, I ended up cracking my ribs and going to the doctor and getting x-rays and having a big crack in my ribs. So that was super diminishing. I almost didn't go to the tournament. Me and Jake talked. I texted, I was like, dude, I have a crack in my ribs. Like, and such a, like rib squeezing type of style with Greco and freestyle, like gut wrenches and body locks being so much more like presented. It was really a struggle for me to like build the confidence back up to go. Like me and Jake have text messages because I'm at school. I just got done getting doctor and Jake's at work or whatever. He's like working on Ironclad. And I'm texting, I'm like, dude, my rib's broken. Like I'm not going to this tournament. I mean, I was down in the dumps because my rib was broken. I was cutting weight. It was 2 days before. I was like, dude, I'm not going to this tournament. Like I had it on my mind. I was like, I'm not going to this tournament. But I could have like pigged out, right? But something in my mind, I was like, maybe I do go to this tournament. Maybe I just say screw it and have a story like went up there and wrestled, and I thought I dominated most of my matches. I felt more confident this time. I believe my abilities to wrestle, especially Greco. I don't think anyone in the United States of America can wrestle me in Greco at my weight and age.
What about Kamal Bay? You think you could take Kamal Bay?
That's one scary man.
I
That
think
is one scary man. I don't know about all that.
outside of maybe Adam Kuhn, I would say that pound for pound, pound for pound, I might say that Kamal Bay is better than Adam Kuhn. But if those two faced off, I think Adam Kuhn might win that one. I could be wrong. I don't know because Kamal Bay did lose to Pat Smith for the world team spot a couple years ago, but it's okay. I was really rooting for him. So obviously, I've got a segment on my show called The Weigh-In. So my first question is going to be, do you think that wrestling in Alabama should be one division or multiple divisions? And if it's multiple divisions, how should we split up?
So I see the pros and cons of both. I think that right now, as it is the worst possible one because it's 5 and 6A is so incredibly deep that it's almost like if you're in a different division, it doesn't count. Like it counts, but it's like, yeah, you won that weight class, but this weight class has the top 3 wrestlers at that weight, or this division has the top 3 wrestlers at that weight. 7A obviously is always going to be strong just because giant powerhouse schools, but 1 through 4A is pretty weak, man. Like it's all the schools are just too small, and 1 through 4A shouldn't be a thing. I think it should be like I think 1 through 5A was good. And then combined 6 and 7A. I think that'd be the best one, maybe. I don't really know. One division would be pretty cool though. California has one division and they have like 15 tournaments just to get to state. Like they have like their county tournament. You have to win their county tournament to go to the qualifier, and to win the qualifier to go to the regional, and win the regional to go to the sectional, and win the sectionals to go to the state tournament. And then the state tournament is still a 64-man bracket, right? But I don't think we're big enough to have one full like thing. Like that would take 4 days. Like a 4-day state tournament. Like that'd be insane.
That'd be a pretty good bracket.
I think it should be 1 through 5A and then 5 and 6A. Yeah, be insane.
That would be crazy. So, obviously, my next question is going to be: do you think that kids should be able to go to club in season?
Absolutely. That is one of the main reasons Alabama is not as good as these other states, is because your club coach and your high school coach can't be the same, or you can't go to the club coach during season. It doesn't make any sense. Like I don't understand why we have this rule. All it does is hurt everybody. It's not like it's unfair because, if all the clubs are open, then what does it matter? If every kid has a chance to go to this club, then what does it matter? That's the reason all these other places are great, is because they have that. There's a school in Oklahoma, Collinsville. They have this super stacked team, and their team is like their club coach is their high school coach, and they just have 8 loaded weight classes, and like, it's so crazy. Oklahoma is such a good state of wrestling because they can do that. Iowa, Pennsylvania. I don't know if Georgia has that rule or not, but like Georgia, Florida, like all these, I don't understand why Alabama is so dumb. Not dumb. I don't understand why we have the rule. Yeah.
I actually, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think it has anything to do with wrestling at all. I think it's actually
Really?
that was created by soccer, because there was this kid who wanted to play on his national team would go to different countries to play, and it kind of crossed hairs with
Mm-hmm.
he was like the best player because obviously he plays on national teams, but the state tournament the state championship for soccer was like the same weekend as this World Cup or whatever, and the state coach got really mad at him because he was playing club. I think that's what I heard. I could be wrong. Don't count me on that, but I think that's kind of it.
That's so dumb. Yeah.
So that would be pretty cool. So how did COVID-19 affect Moody's team this year?
Our team? Not really a lot. Because really COVID-19, I mean, we were practicing because we had school started, so they let us practice.
Castleberry and Danny did really good at state for you guys. So.
Oh yeah.
I watched both the little blogs.
Yeah, it was definitely cool. Yeah. Hey, new videos coming out tomorrow. Just a little catch up, But yeah, no, Danny and Castleberry were good coaches. Like, I mean, yeah, they're both young, and it was kind of hard for me to like look at them as coaches because me and Daniel are like best friends. Like we hang out still. And Castleberry, me and him used to train together. Like we used to be in the same room wrestling. Like we went through Fargo camps together. So it was hard for me to switch from them being my friend to my coach. But by the midway season, we got to the point where I could do that pretty easily. So it was nice. It was good season.
So obviously you train at Ironclad. What are some of the things that well, let me ask, what are the coaches being able to teach you out there?
All right. So here's the thing with the coaches. Each coach has their own thing. They're all different in their own way. Coach Jake has the strong core, like the triangle offense. He can be funky, like he has his funky stuff, but he also we like to sit up here and hand fight and knee and like the basics and then the funk, right? So he'll let's say we're learning, a low single, like we'll learn the normal single and then we'll learn how to hand fight to the low single. And then we'll learn the hand fight and then we'll learn the hand fight to the low single. And then we'll learn finishes, like we'll learn this finish and then this finish and this finish. So Jake has the overall, like the best head coach I've been around a lot of coaches. I've been to the OTC. I've been to all these places. Like I've been to world team coaches. I've had been to other clubs to watch, and Jake is insane. Like he's like the model of coaching, in my opinion. Marcus, obviously, I had him as a head coach in high school. He's the he's like a kid. Like he's a grown man. Don't get me wrong, but he's like a kid. Like it's funny. He likes to make up these moves and play around with these moves. He's super funky. He's the most annoying person to wrestle because you get on his leg and then he hits a full split and he gives you his head so you cradle him and then he recradles you or something crazy. He's super funky, and it's fun to get coached by him too because he'll teach you some crazy stuff and you'll go hit it and you'll be like, that shouldn't have worked. Ricky, not a lot of people know Ricky, but he didn't wrestle in high school. He was his brother wrestled, but he did not wrestle. But he's been around it for forever. Like, and he's the biggest like nerd. Like he researches wrestling so much. Like he's always watching wrestling, whether it's kids or it's high schoolers or it's college or it's international. Like no matter what it is, he's researching. He knows all the kids. He knows all the technique. He doesn't get enough credit. A lot of people look at him and they're like, okay, he didn't wrestle. No, like he doesn't know what wrestling is. No, Ricky knows how to wrestle. And he knows how to coach. He does a great job. Like let's say Jake can't make it a practice one day, Ricky will run practice. Ricky does a great job running practice. Like some people will be like, oh, it's an off day, Ricky's coaching. Like, nah, Ricky's going to coach a real practice and he's going to teach us something and we're going to learn. There's also Landon works at Ironclad now. He's the cameraman. He hasn't done a ton of coaching yet. I think he helps out with the youth some right now, but I think in a year or two he'll be one of the assistant coaches, like one of the main coaches. And then there's the brother, right? Matt's the fighter. He runs our kickboxing classes and our jiu-jitsu classes. And, having him, Jake, and Marcus there all going at each other's head makes it a fun environment. I've actually started kickboxing and doing jiu-jitsu just to break up the monotony of wrestling, because once you wrestle and only wrestle, you get burnt out, right? You've always hear these people, they're like, I've been wrestling for so many years, I'm burnt out. So now I do kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, and it's just another reason to come to practice. So if I'm like, I really don't want to go to wrestling practice, but I'm like, okay, I got to go kickbox before, or I got to go to roll jits after practice. So it just gives me another reason to want to go to practice if I'm not feeling like wrestling one day. It's pretty cool. All the coaches are good. In their own way, they all have their strengths, and of course, they all have their weaknesses. But all together, they're an amazing coaching staff.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Cory, before I let you go, is there anything you want to say to my viewers?
I mean, get ready because I'm coming. I got Pan Ams and Worlds coming up, and I'm ready to go show my worth.
Well, what's your YouTube page? We'll shout it out real quick.
Oh, it's Cory Land, Shark Land. And I know it sounds dumb, but it's the only thing we could do because we couldn't find it used to just be Cory Land, but we couldn't find it. So we had to make some dumb name in the middle. But Land Shark's pretty cool. So Cory Land, Shark Land, videos coming out. Go watch it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Cory, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciated it. I know that all of the people watching this really like it too. So thank you so much.